Good morning again. This is M, CEO of the Soul Focus Group, loving father, great friend, someone who loves people, and yes, that includes you. I love you. So I want to talk to you about a fatal mistake that just about all of us make. And when I say fatal, I mean fatal to the name of the game. In other words, it hinders us being known, us becoming famous when we make this mistake. And it's a common mistake in this world because this world gets us to be ashamed of ourselves. It sells shame wholesale. You can find shame almost everywhere. The idea that you're unworthy, you're a sinner, you need to become something else in order to be accepted, all of it is BS. It's deep BS. Yet we all received it, doses of it, and the doses of shame, depending on the level of dosages that you received as a child, will determine how much of your authentic self you're able to hold on to. So everything that we pretend, there are still elements of our authentic self in those things. So the characters we play, like me playing the hero, there were pieces of my authentic self driving the hero character I was playing. But what you have to understand, it's a fatal mistake, is believing that showing up as a part of yourself is equal to all of yourself. I'm gonna say it again. Fatal mistake is believing that showing up as part of yourself is equal to all of yourself. Fatal mistake because it's not true. We are all or nothing deal. What does that mean? That means only in those moments when we show up as ourselves, fully committed to being known, do we activate our power? Do we authenticate our identity to the universe? And only in that moment do we step into the power of life itself, and we discover just how mighty we really are. Only in that moment. The fatal mistake is believing that you know, or that you can choose which parts of yourself you want to turn off and still think you're going to be effective in this life. Your gift doesn't even come on when you turn off aspects of yourself. You turn your gift off. You suppress your own creative genius. And all this is as a result of you being ashamed of some parts of yourself. Right now, there are aspects of yourself that you are ashamed of, and you don't even know why. It's been so long since you've examined what made you start being ashamed of where you grew up, for example. What made you start being ashamed of your parents? What made you start being ashamed of the school you went to, or the amount of money you didn't have, the fact that you grew up poor, the town that you grew up in? I remember when people would ask me, like, what town I lived in, I was so ashamed of the town I lived in that I would say the next closest town, the next biggest town, which was Lafayette, Louisiana, I would say, I live in Lafayette, I'm from Lafayette. Because I didn't want to hear what oftentimes the negative reputation that the hometown that I grew up in had developed at that time. So I would say I live in Lafayette. I was ashamed of the fact that I grew up in Abbeville. As crazy as that sounds, I can't remember how that got in me, but it got in me through society, through the messages that we heard around us. Not realizing that the people, if you're ashamed of the town, you're also ashamed of the people in town. The two come together. Think about that for a minute. So I grew up with that, just like everybody else. The fatal mistake we make is that we think that we can be a part of ourselves and still have access to the full power of ourselves. You cannot. There are doors that will not open for you as a pretender. There are doors that cannot open with you being a sham. There are doors that cannot and will not open for you as long as you keep showing up as someone else, or you trying to be more like someone else. Now, here's some of the other fatal mistakes we make or I should say, these are indicators that we've made the fatal mistake of believing that we can show up as part of ourselves and still get access to our power and still have access to the magic of us. Because every one of us are magical. We are magical beings. The whole idea that out of billions of people on the planet, that you can be different, that I can be different from everybody else, that I would have something to bring to the marketplace that no one else does, is magic in it of itself. And so when you start leaving out aspects or ingredients of who you are, you stop being the dish that you were co-created to be. So now, here is one of the telltale signs that you've made the fatal mistake. When you start treating everything in your life, or not everything, but some things in your life as more important than yourself, you've made the fatal mistake. Not only have you made the fatal mistake, but you are now also giving yourself reasons to be afraid. See, when you make your house more important than you, and when I say, I'm not talking about verbally, because somebody asks you, what are the most valuable things in your life? You would probably say, God, family, myself, etc. But in most cases, that's pure BS, because that's not how you operationally live. When you look at how you operationally live, in other words, when you look at how you spend your time, energy, attention, and money, you will discover that where you put the most of it is where your values really are. That's what's really important to you. And you will notice that in this world has gotten us to believe that they are simultaneous. In other words, if I'm putting my time, energy, and attention to keeping my house, I'm giving it to myself, but that's not the case. You can make your house more important than you and forget you. You can make your job more important than you and forget you. You can make your spouse more important than you and forget you. You can make your children more important than you and forget you. And then wake up one morning and you say these magic words. Well, not these magic words. You say these words, I don't know who I am anymore. I can't tell you how many of my clients have come to me with that statement being made, I don't know who I am anymore. And I would say, how did that happen? And they say, because I lost myself. And I say, how did you lose yourself? You've been with yourself 24 hours a day your entire life. How did you lose yourself? Here is how they lost themselves, and here's how you've lost yourself. You've made things in your life more important than you. If you're a woman and you make that man more important than you, and operationally, not what comes out of your mouth, but what you're putting your time, energy, and attention into the most, then you're creating an imbalance in your life that says that who you are is not good enough. Who you are is not enough, and you need these things to prove that you're enough. And so you give yourself something to be afraid of, because if you lose those things, oh Lord have mercy. If you lose those things, then you lose your identity, you lose your sense of power, you lose your sense of self-value, you lose your self-esteem. Why? Because you made things in your life more important than yourself. Those are the indicators. Those are indicators that you have made the fatal mistake. Listen, I said to you before on the other videos that I've talked about this, the name of the game of life on earth is fame. Fame not as popularity, but fame as being known. Our soul wants to be known. Our soul wants to be seen, heard, felt, touched without physically being touched, and understood. That is a desire that every soul has. As a matter of fact, it's a need. It's a need that our soul has, because the whole reason why we came into this world was to be known. We did not come into this world to be unknown. I keep repeating that, and I will keep repeating that for forever, because I want to invite you, and I'm inviting you to play the game, the real game. The real game is fame. Repeat after me. I want to be famous. I want to be famous. That don't mean being popular. That means I want to give people the opportunity to get to know me, and I want to know me. The name of the game is fame. Repeat after me. I want to be famous. I want to be famous. I want to be famous because I want to be known. I don't want to exist in this world without being known at my core. I want you to feel my love. I want you to feel my compassion. I want you to feel my forgiveness. I want you to feel my passion. I want you to feel me. Can you feel me? Can you feel me, people? I want to be known. I want to be famous, and so do you. I'm inviting you to come play the game. Come play the game. At the Soul Focus Group, we play the game of fame. And we know how to play it because we make everybody that comes to us, we know how to make you famous. Before you leave, you will leave available to be known by others, embracing who you are, and you will get to know yourself. I love you. I'm a guy who loves people, and yes, that includes you. Ain't nothing you could do about it. Peace.